At x equals 0, we've got
Hey guys, today we're going to have a look at door security. I'm going to start off by saying that I assume everybody already has a deadbolt lock on their front door, side door, rear door. If you don't have a deadbolt lock on all those outside doors already, you need to remedy that as soon as possible. You can either have a locksmith install that or you can install it yourself. Barring that, we're going to have a look at the installation of a deadbolt lock and how you get maximum security out of it. And then we're going to have a look at a couple of the entry-level deadbolt locks from the big box stores, and I'm going to see if I can defeat them and how quickly I can defeat them. Okay, I've already installed the deadbolt into our pretend door. I didn't want to spend camera time installing that because it's pretty straightforward and the instructions that come with your lock can show you how to do that. So it's functioning. And this is our pretend door frame, which would of course be going all the way around the door. Now when you get the door, it usually comes with a frame like this, which is a thin piece of wood that goes all the way around, and the door is pre-hung in there. And then this piece would be attached to the studs surrounding your door. Now the problem comes with your strike plate. If you don't have your strike plate into anything more than this thin piece of wood right here, you don't even have to worry about somebody picking your lock because they can kick that down in one kick. So let's have a closer look at how you install the strike plate, because that is the key to the security of your deadbolt. So here's the takeaway point. The instructions that come with the deadbolt are very straightforward. This part is very easy to install. What you need to make sure gets done properly is the strike plate, which is on this side where the deadbolt goes into. Now if you just have wood there, then you're really pressing your luck, because just about anybody could kick right through that. So generally it's going to come with two pieces. Now this is the minimum that I'm talking about here. You can get beefier strike plates, but the minimum that you want to have is it's going to come with a hardened steel piece like this, and it's going to come with a thinner, sort of flashier piece which goes over this, and it's more for decorative purposes. So what you want here is you want to put your strike plate on first, and you want to make sure you use big 3-inch screws, because you're going to have a stud back there. And what you want is for this to be attached with a 3-inch screw through it, so that you're going into the stud. And if somebody wants to kick this thing down, they're going to need to take the stud with it. Now if you were to just put up the decorative piece, which I've seen on some of my own family members and other people's house for whatever reason, you're going to want to correct that, because you see this little screw right here is just holding this little guy in just that much. And this piece of wood right here is something that you can kick right through. It's thin, weak wood. So when you do this on your door, you're going to have to measure it out and make sure the hole that's there, or if you have to make a hole, you're going to have to use a drill to make your hole. But you're going to want to put the hardened strike plate. You can see the difference between these two. This one's hard and steel, and this one's soft, thin. So you're going to want to get yourself some 3-inch screws. It comes with some 3-inch screws, but I found those to be rather cheap. I would get some better screws, some deck screws like these. And you're going to want to put it in so that it's going all the way in there. And a second 3-inch screw go. So now you've got this hardened steel piece, 3-inch screws going into the stud, 2 of them. Like I said, you can get beefier things than that. You can get ones that, you know, have 6 holes, so you can put 6 screws in or whatever you want to do. But this is adequate. And that's when the decorative piece comes in. The decorative piece goes over the top of this. And you don't have to put the decorative piece on. It's up to you. But these short screws don't serve any security purpose. They're very minimal. Now once you've got this put on top, and then when you close your door, you've got this going into there, and what's keeping it from going anywhere when somebody's pulling on your door are these 3-inch screws that are holding this plate on. Now, if you intend to install this yourself because you find out that you don't have 3-inch screws, which you could go figure out right now if you want just by taking whatever you've got in there out, you may need to use some chisels to chisel out a space for this to go. It's not that difficult, but it takes a little bit more work, because if your clearance is such that the door that this is going to strike it, you're going to need to cut that out. It shouldn't take, the whole thing shouldn't take more than half hour, 45 minutes if you had to chisel that out and then do the 3-inch screws. So there you go. Even the cheapest of locks is going to work pretty good if you have this strike plate in here with the 3-inch screws. Obviously, you know, you want to get the best lock that you can get and have the 3-inch screws, or get something even more elaborate. I actually have something more elaborate on both of my doors. It's got like 12 screws in it. But this is how you're going to get the maximum security out of whatever deadbolt lock it is that you already have. Now let's have a look at defeating these locks and see where we can get with that. Okay, so we've got our lock installed. And we can see that it's working properly. And we're going to try method 1, which is to unlock the lock without damaging the lock. I tried to use traditional lock picks, and it's something I have no experience in, and I will tell you that it's a very difficult thing to learn, and it takes a lot of practice. So we're going to bypass that. Kudos to all of you folks that are good with lock picks and have built up that skill. I have not done that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use a bump key. Now, I made bump keys specifically to be used for this demonstration, just to show what they do. And once again, these are entry-level locks from the big box hardware stores. This one was about $15. The other one was about $35. A bump key uses the same type of key that the manufacturer uses for their lock, but it's blank. Like the ones that are hanging up when they make a key for you that they haven't made a key out of yet. I'm not going to tell you how to make a bump key. I would prefer that less people knew how to make a bump key, but I will tell you that it took me about 20 to 25 minutes to get this one right, and I've never done it before. So I will let the results speak for themselves. I'm not going to time this. I think the results will, once again, speak for themselves. So I'm going to show you that this is open. This is not a working key for this lock. It doesn't work. And I'm going to take it 1 notch out, and I'm going to give it a tap. And that's all there is to it, folks. Somebody is in your house through your deadbolt lock. Let's go ahead and take a look at a close-up of that. Okay, so as you can see, this is a key. It's inserted fully. Doesn't turn. Take it 1 notch out. Bolt's extended. That's it. Okay, so we're back with lock number 2, and I have made a bump key for this lock as well. This one's a fancy blank from the store, one of the red ones. So go ahead and see how this guy works. And there we go, right off the bat on lock 2. So let's go ahead and we'll take a close look at this. So here we've got the actual key to the lock, which is going to go in the regular old key. And here we have the bump key, which does not work until you use the bumping method, like so. Do that one more time so you can see it. There we go. Taking a close look, you can see that these keys are not the same key. The bump key looks like it's got a bunch of jagged teeth, and the regular key looks like a key with a sequence of hills and valleys that go in, and they manipulate the pins in there so that they line up so you can turn the key. What the bump key does is these jagged edges right here slap the pins up when you bump it, and then at the split second you have, while those pins are up and down and slightly clear of the keyhole, you can turn the lock. So here we go. I've got lock 1 installed in here again, and my equipment is going to be a drill, a couple of bits, and a couple of screwdrivers, and I have a plan of attack. So we're going to take a close look at it, and we're going to time how long it takes me to get through this lock with a cordless drill. So the plan of attack here is to knock out the screws that are holding this lock together, and I'm getting through there with a smaller bit just to make a pilot hole, and I'm going to change it up to a bigger bit so that I can knock those screws out of there. So let's go ahead and see what happens here once I get this bit in. Here we go. Got through there fairly easily. And there it goes. Whole thing flew off. Now I just gotta make sure I can retract that bolt. Mess around with it here till I find something that'll work. And here we go, finish of 1 minute and 33 seconds. I'm going to start with the same plan of attack for lock 2, and I'm using the hammer and the punch here just to make it easier for me to get my drill bit in there without it sliding all over the place. So I'm trying for the 2 screws to see if I can knock those out of there. And I'm really not sure what's going to happen here until I start, but as you can see, I'm not getting much of anywhere, and I know that there's a hardened steel plate inside of there to prevent this sort of an attack, and we'll see how well it works. It's doing a good job so far. Change the bit. See if I can do something with a different bit. and I'm still not getting anywhere here. It never even came close with those. It was it's a really hard plate that they have in there protecting that. I don't think I really broke beyond the outer brass shell there that you can see. That's just sort of a decorative piece. Yep, getting absolutely nowhere with that. So I'm going to try a second area, which is right at the top there. You can see where the cylinder meets the outer piece. I'm going to bang a little hole and see if I can dig in there and get at those pins. And this also has a protective piece of hardened steel. And as you can see, I'm not getting much anywhere with this either. So I gotta give it a go and see if I can hit the pins from inside of the keyhole. Go back to a smaller bit. The keyway in there is pretty thin. As soon as I get that in there, I can feel that that's not going too far in there too. There's the first pin has some sort of a anti-drill quality to it. It's hardened, or the way it's shaped. So I'm really not getting much of anywhere. I can feel that I'm breaking up a few things in there, but it doesn't feel like anything's giving way. Now the one spot I got left to go is the bottom there, and that goes in fairly easily. See if I've done anything here where I can turn it with a big screwdriver, but it's not budging. I'll try to get it in there again with the small bit. Still nothing. See if I can get through that armor. Well, they did a good job with the armor on this one. And I'm not getting anywhere with the pins. So I'm gonna, after this try with the screwdriver, nothing, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot for the bottom again and see if I can't dig into the mechanism that spins. And I'm getting down in there pretty good. And then suddenly, bam, I see it. I hit it. And hit that again. Opens up with a time of 4 minutes 53 seconds.
So now that we've taken a look at a couple of methods that just about anybody could use to get through one of these locks, what conclusions can we draw? First off, I want to be sure that I'm being fair to the manufacturers of these locks. Both of these locks were hardware store-bought, entry-level models. Both manufacturers make higher-end models. I also want to be sure that I'm being fair about the bump keys. I was able to make a bump key for both the Kwikset and the Schlage lock. However, I cannot confirm that those bump keys will work on any locks other than the ones that I was able to experiment on. In fact, in terms of the Schlage, I have a Schlage on my door, which is about 5 years older than this one, and I was unable to make the bump key work on that lock. So what are the implications of that? Well, could be manufacturing differences, and it could be security features. It's possible that they manufacture these in such a way where if I made a bump key that works on this lock
it works on 25% of the locks of this model because they change something up every now and again. I don't have a solid answer to why that is, but I do know that there are places that sell professionally made bump keys. And I would also guess that if you had an older lock, say 10 years ago or more, that was around before people were making a bigger deal of bump keys, that it probably is more susceptible to bump keys. So I'm going to call the bump key plausible. And you've seen how dangerous it could be if a criminal got a hold of one of these, especially a professionally made one. They're going to be in your house just as quick as they would be if they had the actual key. So once again, we're going to call the bump key plausible. The drilling, we're going to call confirmed. I was able to get through both locks in less than 5 minutes per lock, and I was able to defeat it. So there's no doubt that the drill can get through the lock, and I don't think that there would be any differences in manufacturing in these models of locks that would prevent an identical drill attack from being able to get through either of these locks. In fact, in terms of the Kwikset, I think if I had put the larger bit in to start with, I probably could have been through there in about 30 seconds. So we're going to call drilling confirmed, although it would be a little bit noisy for somebody to be sitting on your front porch with a drill for 5 minutes, but nonetheless they could get through. And for any viewers that are interested, I didn't show the video because it would have been too long, but I continued on drilling through the Schlage, and I was never able to get through the armor, but I switched over to a hammer drill, and I was eventually able to get all the way through here. So it's a pretty tough lock, but it's not immune to drill attacks. So let's go ahead and move on to what can you do to increase the security of your door now that you know that the deadbolt is not the be-all end-all of door security. Now that we've seen that a deadbolt lock can be defeated, what can you do to increase the security of your door? Well, the answer is pretty straightforward. What you can do to increase the security of your door is add a lock that can only be manipulated from inside. It can only be locked and unlocked from the inside of your house. That way there's no chance that it can be defeated from the outside. Obviously, that's only going to work when you're home because you need to be inside the house to lock it. But it will give you some peace of mind that when you're sleeping at night, if somebody did bump your lock or drill your lock, they're not getting through because your secondary locking device is going to stop them. So let's take a look at one method that you could use to do that. So here's one option for the inside of your house. It's a traditional style bolt like this. Doesn't have to be right above the deadbolt. You could put it up top, down below, wherever. The important thing with this is to make sure that it's into the door with heavy duty screws, and hopefully you have a solid core door of some sort. And to once again make sure that these guys are in with 3-inch screws going into the stud. This is the piece that the bolt goes into to secure the lock. So this way, if somebody does bump your lock or they drill through your lock, they can't get through this because they can't reach it. It's on the inside. And this particular lock, although not very aesthetically pleasing, it also offers a slot over here if you wanted to put a padlock on here, like say it's near a window or something and you want to make sure that this can't be undone. So that's one option that you could look into. So I'm sure you're seeing a reoccurring theme here with the 3-inch screws. The 3-inch screws going into the stud is a very important part of both the deadbolt, this kind of bolt, or any sort of secondary locking mechanism you're going to put on here. It's important that it be anchored to something strong like the studs. So what you don't want to use is something like a chain, because the chain is going to be going into here with a couple of small screws, and then the other piece is going to be going into the molding somewhere over here. It's not going to be anchored strong into the studs. And besides that, even if the chain was into the studs, the chain itself is weak. It's They're tiny links. Go do an experiment if you want and buy one of those. They're pretty cheap. You can break right through those. Those offer practically no security at all. And the other thing that you don't want to use is the thing where it's got a brass ball hanging out here and it's sort of a looped piece that goes over it that's also brass, because that also is not anchored into the studs. When it's not anchored into the studs, you're not getting maximum security out of it. So let's look at one more method that you can do this from the inside. So this device presses right up against the door. It's spring loaded and it locks into a catch. Here's what it looks like when it's open. It comes clear of the door so that you can freely open the door. Here are the 3-inch screws going into the stud to provide strength. And here's what it looks like to scale. It's not very intrusive. It's more aesthetically pleasing than the other. And it comes in nickel and brass. And you can get this at the big box stores as well. Final thoughts on door security. You'll notice that I didn't talk about handle locks. Handle locks are very minimal, and handle locks are going to be able to be bumped by the same bump key that can bump your deadbolt lock, because generally the handle lock and the deadbolt lock take the same key. If you have a deadbolt already, make sure that you got a strike plate with 3-inch screws going into the stud. If you want to protect yourself from drill attack and bump keys, you need to install a lock that can only be manipulated from inside the house. If you want to go for maximum security, you can spend a lot of money to get there. You can get a steel door frame instead of a wood door frame, and that will solve the strike plate issue and then some. And you can spend tons of money on deadbolt locks, $300 plus. They make locks that don't even take standard keys, so there's no way that they could be bumped. So I hope I've given you some good information and that you can go do your own evaluation of your door security. And if it doesn't meet your expectations, that you can soup it up a little bit with some of the things that I've talked about today. Thanks for watching.